On August 24, 1572, a day that should have been one of celebration in Paris, the vibrant heart of France, was plunged into an abyss of unimaginable violence. What began as a targeted assassination attempt quickly escalated into one of the most brutal and systematic massacres in European history, the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre. This event, a horrifying chapter in the French Wars of Religion, would forever alter the religious and political landscape of France and send shockwaves across the continent. To understand the ferocity of the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre, we must first delve into the tumultuous religious climate of 16th-century France. For decades, the nation had been torn apart by a series of civil wars, known as the French Wars of Religion. On one side stood the staunchly Catholic majority, deeply rooted in tradition and loyal to the Pope. On the other, the growing Protestant minority, known as Huguenots, who embraced the teachings of John Calvin and sought religious freedom. This deep ideological chasm fueled decades of intermittent conflict, marked by periods of fragile peace and renewed bloodshed. At the heart of this volatile period was the French monarchy, struggling to maintain control amidst the religious strife. Catherine de' Medici, the shrewd and pragmatic Queen Mother, played a pivotal role. She sought to balance the power between the Catholic Guise family and the Protestant Bourbon faction, often through strategic marriages and political maneuvering. Her son, the young King Charles IX, was heavily influenced by his mother and the powerful Catholic nobles. A prominent figure among the Huguenots was Admiral Gaspard de Coligny, a respected military leader and advisor to the king, whose growing influence would ultimately become a source of great tension. In an attempt to reconcile the warring factions and bring peace to France, Catherine de' Medici orchestrated a marriage between her daughter, Margaret of Valois, a Catholic, and the Protestant leader Henry of Navarre. The wedding, held on August 18, 1572, was intended as a symbol of unity and reconciliation. However, it inadvertently drew many prominent Huguenots to Paris, creating a concentrated target for those who harbored deep-seated anti-Protestant sentiments. Just days after the wedding, on August 22, Admiral de Coligny was shot and wounded in an assassination attempt. The attack, widely believed to have been orchestrated by the Guise family with the possible complicity of Catherine de' Medici, ignited a powder keg of fear and suspicion. The Huguenots, enraged by the attack on their leader, demanded justice, threatening to retaliate. The atmosphere in Paris became increasingly volatile, with rumors and paranoia spreading like wildfire. In the early hours of August 24, the feast day of St. Bartholomew, the bells of Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois began to toll, signaling the start of a horrific purge. What followed was a systematic and brutal slaughter of Huguenots throughout Paris. Catholic mobs, incited by religious fervor and years of simmering resentment, poured into the streets, dragging Huguenots from their homes, and mercilessly murdering them. No one was spared. Men, women, and children fell victim to the indiscriminate violence. Admiral de Coligny, still recovering from his wounds, was among the first to be killed, his body thrown from a window. The streets ran red with blood. The massacre was not confined to Paris. As news spread, similar acts of violence erupted in other cities and towns across France. Estimates of the dead vary widely, but it is believed that between 5,000 and 30,000 Huguenots were murdered in the weeks that followed. The St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre was a turning point, not just in the French Wars of Religion, but in the history of religious persecution. It shattered any remaining hope of peaceful coexistence between Catholics and Protestants in France and further entrenched the deep divisions within the nation. The St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre had profound and lasting consequences for France and for Europe. Far from eradicating Protestantism, it galvanized Huguenot resistance, leading to even more brutal religious wars. Many Huguenots fled France, seeking refuge in other Protestant nations, which in turn enriched those countries with skilled artisans and intellectuals. The massacre also severely damaged France's international reputation, drawing condemnation from Protestant powers across Europe. It would take another generation, and the ascension of Henry IV, a former Huguenot who converted to Catholicism to secure the throne, to finally bring an end to the religious wars. In 1598, Henry IV issued the Edict of Nantes, a landmark decree that granted substantial rights to Huguenots, including freedom of conscience and public worship in specified areas. While not perfect, the Edict of Nantes brought a much-needed period of peace and relative religious tolerance to France, a stark contrast to the horrors of the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre. The St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre stands as a chilling reminder of the dangers of religious extremism, political manipulation, and unchecked mob violence. It underscores the importance of tolerance, understanding, and the protection of minority rights. By examining such dark chapters of our past, we can strive to build a future where differences are celebrated and peace prevails over persecution. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more.